Welcome, one and all, back to the newest episode of the Hoth Hangout podcast, where Joey and I will be breaking down Bad Batch episode 3 from the second season. It was a pretty good one. I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm sure we've got a bit to dive into and discuss in regards to the episode. But first, and most importantly, Joey, how are you? What's new with you?
Doing pretty good. Just watched the episode a couple hours. Well, for the second time, watched it a couple hours ago, and so it's all fresh in my mind. I can't wait to talk about this. But had a good week. Always a good time when Wednesday comes around and we record. It's
Joey
always Wednesday.
Joey's saying Wednesday for this reason because last week on Monday I said, Joey, are you ready to record tomorrow? Or I said, I'm ready to record tomorrow. And, and Joey was like, we're recording on Wednesday, right? So now
Yeah, it's fine.
I need the reminders every week that we don't
Yeah.
record on Tuesday, we record on Wednesday.
It's only been 20 weeks or whatever it's been. It's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, we're going on I think over 4 months now or something like that. So
That's right.
which also is a good opportunity to say thank you to everyone who's subscribed or listened to the Hoth Hangout podcast or watched any of the Hoth Hangout YouTube videos so far. And if you happen to be listening to this on Apple or Spotify or watching the video version on YouTube, go ahead and check us out on those other platforms, especially the YouTube one. If you want to subscribe over there, that would mean a lot as we continue the grind towards that 100 subscriber mark. We're getting closer day by day.
Getting
So
close.
hopefully a few weeks out, maybe potentially. We'll see. But yes, appreciate all of you who continue to listen and subscribe to the pod. Episode 3 was a pretty good one, I thought. I think I liked it the most of the 3 episodes, which is so ironic to say because um there was no Bad Batch in this episode.
Right.
Well,
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't want to say
Well.
no Bad Batch. Maybe one former Bad Batch member in this
Right.
episode.
Yes.
But this is something I think we mentioned. I think it was last week or maybe in our season 1 recap video that um that they may be approaching this season as some Bad Batch episodes here, some Crosshair episodes here, which is, this episode wasn't even really entirely centered around Crosshair. But I didn't dislike it. I think it worked. And I was unsure maybe halfway through the episode, and then it ended, and I was like, okay, yeah, I dig that. What did you think about it? The way the approach they took with it.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, this was a left turn from what we're used to seeing from the Bad Batch. I mean, normally you would see it very, very heavily on, the remaining members of the Bad Batch. That being, of course, Hunter, Omega, Tech, Echo, and Wrecker, right? That's what you would normally be seeing. But this was all about Crosshair, which I thought was a good choice as far as the storytelling, because I think it's important to really understand both sides of where all of these characters are at now, especially with them being separated, one with the Empire, one all the rest not. So I think it's important to see that the compare and contrast, the old essays back in high school where you'd have to determine like what were the differences that you see here. And it gave me something that I didn't really thought that I wanted was a lot of Clone Wars type of feels.
Mm-hmm.
You saw the old school battle droids, the droidecas, you know, um, and all of the clones in all of them. So that's something that I didn't really expect that I wanted, but I was absolutely here for it. Even the tactical droid that was there, kind of, telling where all the battle droids to do and everything like that. um, that's not exactly what I was expecting that I wanted, but it was really fun watching this episode because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm convinced that at one point in every season of every animated show that Star Wars continues to do, there will always be some planet that's like a remnant of the separatists, and just so that they can bring back the battle droids because they're so
Yeah.
much fun to have in the episodes as comic relief.
Right.
Although
Yeah.
I guess
And
there
yeah.
wasn't a ton of it in this episode, but there may be bits and pieces here and there. Yeah, the droids always provide a good laugh.
Yeah, and the whole Roger Roger thing, even just hearing that
Yeah.
again, just hearing those words again, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize I needed that again in my life. When it first came out, it was kind of silly, like these droids that were just kind of fumbling all over each other, whatever. But it really does make it for, it brings you back to that era, the Clone Wars era.
Right. So yeah, I guess to just this is my attempt at 30 seconds or less. I'm gonna see if I can do it. My synopsis of the episode. So basically, there is this separatist planet, or formerly separatist planet, called Desix. There's a governor on the planet called, governor on the planet named Tawn Ames. The Empire comes in. This guy named Governor Groton is laying like, okay, you guys, you have to, pay tribute to us, or we basically own you now. Also, side note, the clones are wearing different armor. We can talk about that maybe. I thought that looked pretty cool. And of course, Crosshair goes with Commander Cody, which is definitely the highlight of this episode, I think, to Desix, and then to confront this governor who is, saying we're not going to be a member of the Empire, and ultimately that culminates in the end of the episode where Cody is sort of faced with this really difficult decision. How was that? Was that less than 30 seconds?
I think that was actually I was counting it. Yeah, you were about 45 seconds, but
Oh, dang, so close. But
so
yeah,
it's
the
good, pretty good.
brief overview of the episode. So maybe we can start with just briefly the Governor Groton, the Imperial Governor. Like such a such a whiny guy. I did not like him at all, but I guess that's the
Yeah,
point.
he is he is somebody's like nephew
Yeah.
who that they're like, you know what, you go handle that planet.
S-
You can get
some
that one.
some nepotism going on in the Imperial
Yeah,
ranks.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, and 'cause normally they're very, you look at something like the show Andor, where you would run into those Imperials that are very proper, very that's kind of what you expect. But then, obviously, it being an animated series, you can kind of you know you could bend that rule a little bit,
Yeah.
where they're a little bit, that you can make them a little bit whinier and hate them even more for that reason. So I thought that was that's why that's there. But I thought the governor that's on
Mm-hmm.
the planet, what was her name again?
Tawn Ames.
Tawn Ames. I thought
Mhm.
she was a really cool character.
Yep.
Um because once again we get a nice mention of Dooku.
Mm-hmm.
Just Dooku basically told her that the Empire's going to go they're going to go bad, and they're going to become this empire, essentially. So you don't want any part of it. Make sure you stay separate from it, and to have once again Dooku brought up again in the past 3 episodes. We've got 2 references back to him.
Yeah.
I wonder what more we'll get. It seems like the theme at this point. On both sides, we saw it from the Bad Batch side, and now we've kind of seen it from the Crosshair side. So, I don't know. Maybe that's just it for the season, but it's hard to not at least make mention of it. While we're discussing
Sure.
it.
Well, and I think Dooku is it's not just by like randomness or chance that they kind of decided, okay, this is the character we're going to use to kind of just like throw some Easter eggs in here. I think there's actually a lot of symbolism and reasoning behind it too, because Dooku, I think, is the best representation of grayness when it comes to Star Wars, to the point where like he obviously, I think he wanted to, back the Republic to the point where he physically felt like he couldn't.
Hmm.
And so, having said that, him being a part of the Separatists and him even being Sidious's apprentice was all meant to be uh, a means to a greater end, which was hopefully peace, which he didn't see as coming from the Republic anymore. Um, so all that to say, this mindset of like Dooku kind of have to like balance what is good and what is bad, and maybe like go along with some bad dudes in for the final purpose of hopefully obtaining peace through all of that, very much feels akin to what a lot of the clones are going through right now, where it's like execute this person. It's like I was just told this person I would make peace with them, you know? The clones, much like Dooku, I think, have peace as their primary objective. Um, you know, no matter the means that sometimes they took to achieve that objective. That was always hopefully the end goal for both of those two particular, you know, Dooku and the clones. And so I think that's really intentional, actually, that they're using Dooku references throughout these episodes, just to kind of tie that into kind of the mindset of the clones as well. At least that's kind of how I perceived it, at least.
Right, that's a great point. And you kind of mentioned the clones. It just seems like they're starting to lose them left and right, um, to people not believing in the Empire. These clones are not on their side, and we come to find out at the end of the episode that Cody seems to have gone AWOL after this mission on the planet there, and we kind of mentioned it, I think, in the last episode that maybe it's Cody that ends up
Hmm.
leaving, or after all of it. And I'll be honest, every time I saw Cody, I'm like, you're the one that got the order on Obi-Wan, so.
Which I want to talk about that too, but finish your thought because I have a thought on that
Yeah,
afterwards.
and I mean that, but like I said earlier, like that really brought me back to the prequels, and how that all ended, Order 66, and how important, and and I've mentioned this before. What I love about Star Wars is the ability to make it stretch through different mediums, whether it's animated series, TVs, books, whatever. Obviously, this Order 66 is a very important time, in the universe, and to just have it constantly referenced from back and forth. It was just it's something that I always like to see, is that just obviously, like I said, it's a huge event, so everyone's gonna know about it as far as the
Hmm.
Jedi and the Empire. But I think it's just it's always cool to be a part of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved that they made the decision to bring Cody back into this. Um, his character arc is kind of going how I think I anticipated it to go so far. Um, and I don't mind it. My bigger issue is like how it pertains to episode 3. Because
Mm.
you always felt like after watching episode 3, you're like, oh, like he absolutely didn't have a choice in this. Like something clicked in his brain that just made him view Obi-Wan as like, the absolute enemy. But now that like you kind of see how he's reacting to things, like it feels like he actually has like a real working conscience that's like combating the chip. Um, and so I don't know. It's hard to put
have
those two
have
things
both have both of those exist
right. Like
in the same
how could you
person.
without any second thought be like, all right, yep, I gotta shoot the general off the mount off
Right.
the cliffside, like without even thinking twice about it. But then,
Hmm.
you know, and maybe it's like the passage of time. That maybe that's the
Right. Right.
the
Right. Yeah.
excuse we can use, that he's just kind of like, you know, grown to see the bad sides of the empire.
Hmm.
Maybe you could like, you could use that to kind of explain it away, but there's still something about it that kind of always bothers me. That like now he has a conscience, and like,
Right. Yeah.
5 years ago or whenever it was like, uh, I guess it
Yeah.
wasn't
That's
5 years. I
that's an
guess it was
order.
about a year, but
Yeah. But
yeah,
yeah, that's the order. I'm doing it. Yeah. I know what you mean.
right,
Yeah. And I mean, but you can tell the conflict in Cody now.
yeah,
Um, from the beginning of the episode, where um he is talking with Crosshair for the first time,
hmm
and they're
he
and you
he
could see,
recruits
and we
Crosshair. He wants him as
yeah,
a
he
part of his
recruits.
mission.
Yeah, yeah. He wants him there, but when they did their little chit chat talk before they go on to their mission, they were talking just basically about how there are basically clone troopers that they were talking about how the Bad Batch basically went rogue, and then Crosshair kind of just says, well, Reg's doing the same thing too, so
Yeah,
um but you could see already in that conversation that Cody was already thinking about, like, yeah, I don't like, you could see like that conflict in him, like, yeah, I don't understand why other people are doing it, or maybe he does understand why people are doing it. So and I just thought and I don't know, can we talk about that wall they were in front of with all of the
Oh yeah, all the weird
yeah,
writing and stuff on it.
yeah. So I think that's the Jedi writing. I mean the Star Wars writing Arabic or whatever. I'm
Hmm.
sure somebody's gonna translate that entire wall, somewhere on the internet. But yeah, because that's where you first saw them together, and that's actually where you saw them both at the end together for the
Hmm.
last time too. And you could tell, and obviously at the end, Cody was kind of in that place where like, well, are we really doing good here? Is this what we're supposed to be doing? And through the entire time, you always wondered like motivation. People, what's their motivation to be doing this? Crosshair is very straight line right now. He is a soldier. This is what I'm meant to do. This is what I do. Where
Right.
Cody has been a soldier in his time. Now he's like you said, has this working conscience where he's not quite sure if he is on board with all of this now.
Yeah. But that's also ironic because if we believe Crosshair's story from season 1, Cody has a chip, and according to Crosshair, he no longer does, which is almost the inverse of their behavior.
Right, right.
So that's a little interesting as well. That Cody's kind of like fighting against the thing he's programmed to do, and Crosshair is like giving in, or not even giving in, like welcoming the thing that he used to be programmed to do.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and I wonder if that has anything to do with their genetic differences,
Mm.
where they were, and I forget like exactly the word, the terminology for it, but basically Clone Force 99, they are like the super force
Yeah.
of all the clones. So they have all these, augments. We just played Fortnite the other night, so I'm talking about augments. But essentially, yeah, they have all of these um changes to them that makes them a little bit better than all the other clones. So I wonder if what he is displaying now was kind of part of that too. Maybe he doesn't have the chip in him, but he is. I don't what other way to say this, but like super stubborn and will
Yeah.
constantly do exactly what he is. And maybe that's just part of his change.
Right. Yeah. I'm still the most intrigued with Crosshair's
Hard
character.
not to be. Hard not to be.
Right.
Honestly.
At its core, you're like, dude, why do you keep going with them? Like, at some point, you have to realize that they're not the good guys.
Right. Yeah.
And I hope that comes before the end of season 2, but that
Right.
remains to be seen.
Yeah, and one thing you could tell that Crosshair is longing for is that brotherhood, though,
Well, yeah, the
because
end of
they're
season 1
yeah,
is evident of that. I mean, he
yeah,
betrays,
yeah,
these other Imperial officers to give Hunter and the rest of them one last chance to kind of come back and team up with him and join the
exactly.
Empire.
And I mean, even in this episode, there are two very, very sad scenes where he's sitting by himself at the cafeteria. So I mean, you could tell, you're just like all these other clones got their friends, their homies all around him. He keeps getting called by the principal's office to come up and got to talk to the vice admiral once again. So you could tell that there's no camaraderie there when it comes to Crosshair and any of the clones that are currently still with Empire.
Mm.
So maybe that's something he is longing for, and even when he was in his barracks and he was in his bed and he's like all by himself. I mean, they made a choice to make it seem like, and obviously the episode name is what, Solitary Clone, was that what it is?
Yeah, it's something like, yeah, the solitary. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, solitary
Yes.
soldier or solitary clone.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think you're right.
So I mean it was very much showing that in him, and now
Loneliness.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, so it showed a lot of that, and I mean, finally he kind of found somebody in Cody that's kind of what it looked like for a little bit, but now Cody's gone now too. So he just, the one thing he had, he took it away from him.
Yeah, the whole episode was kind of like a sob story for Crosshair, if you want to look at it that way. Not a sob story, but the whole episode, you're like, man, I feel bad for him. Man, I feel bad for him. Oh, look, like he can be with Cody now. Like they'll be good buds.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
Cody leaves, and he's like,
He
well,
leaves, yeah, yeah,
Crosshair is by himself again. Great. I feel
yeah,
bad for him again. So,
yeah.
um, yeah, I Crosshair's character intrigues me more than anyone. Um, and now we kind of get to see a side of Cody that I think we all wished we had seen, the past 15 years after
Yeah.
episode 3. It's like, it was
Right.
like, really? He just betrayed him like that? And now we kind of get to see him working through that process in the next few
Right. Yeah.
episodes, hopefully. So that'll be pretty neat to see as well. Speaking of augments, new clone, or maybe some of them aren't clones anymore. New armor for the stormtroopers. What'd you think of the new suits? I mean, there's a little bit of an aesthetic difference there.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was. See, and this is where I'm not quite sure. Like at the end there, when Cody and Crosshair and everybody who was on the planet are basically shipping off. They're all injured, they're kind of hobbling off. And then they basically bring in a new set in.
Yeah.
Were those clone troopers too? Or are they stormtroopers?
Well, see, I don't know. I
Yeah.
think I think the impression it wants to give is that this is a process in a time period in the Empire where there are both
Mm-hmm,
together.
mm-hmm.
And so I think the line is purposely blurred so that you're not really sure if it's a
Right,
clone or if
yeah.
it's a human.
Right.
But
And I think
yeah.
that was what I wanted a little bit more draw in the sand type of event, because they made it very obvious that after they had well, to me anyway, they made it seem like they wanted to show like, here are all the wounded clone war clones leaving right now, and now you bring the strong stormtroopers who will
Mm,
that's what I wanted to see there, if that in fact was what was meant to be shown. But like you said, it was very like, oh well, kind of, um, because we know that now, this is a mission of the vice admiral, to kind of get rid of all the rest of the clones, and this would have been a perfect opportunity for it to be like, okay, you guys scope it out, you clones go in there, take care of the governor, take care of anybody in the insurgents or whoever we need to take care of. When you guys are done, we'll bring in the stormtroopers to now patrol the planet after that. So I mean, that's how I thought it would go, but I'm not sure if that is how it went. So I have no idea if I'm satisfied or not with what the ending was there.
mm. Yeah, that's a good point. All that I know is no longer a separatist planet.
It is not. It is not at all. And I, like I said, I did like that character.
The
I
governor?
already forgot her name. Yeah,
Tawn.
Tane,
Tawn
Tawn,
Ames. Yeah.
Tawn Ames. I'll get it, but it doesn't matter, I guess, because she's gone already. But it seems
Yeah,
because
she didn't last very long, did she?
she didn't last very long. But she did make a reference to Mina Bonteri, I believe the name is.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't recognize
Yeah,
that name. Do you know who that
yeah. That
is?
from the clone. I mean, that name is from the Clone Wars animated series for sure. So I
Okay.
forget if she had worked with Padme at some point as a mentor, or there's definitely a storyline there. So we'll need to everyone on YouTube tell us who she is right now, because we don't know.
Well, I remember hearing it in the episode, and I was like, "That's weird that they would just name drop someone. That has to be a reference to something." And then I just didn't look it up after the episode.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but yeah, I remember her referencing the name. So I but it's also worth mentioning her character for only occupying like 20 minutes of Bad Batch in total from the time we meet her to the time Crosshair shoots her. It is very impactful. In fact, um, she has a very large role in Cody's mindset shifting to where it eventually gets by the end of the episode. But she says something along the lines of, after the Imperial governor tells him to execute her, she says something like "all for peace, huh?" or something like that,
Yeah, right,
and
exactly.
you're like, "Oh, that cuts deep."
Yeah, yeah,
So I
right.
mean, you can feel the emotion building within Cody. Like, I know this is wrong, what we're being told to do. So yeah, like you said, I think she was arguably the most impactful character of the episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, I'm waiting. Well, now I guess we'll have to have some fan fictions of her or something like that, because
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like that there's more to her story, and for it to only have been 20 minutes on an animated series just seems like we did her dirty a little
Yeah.
bit. It kind of reminds me of Val in Solo. She
Mm.
was just only there for the first half. Oh, spoiler alert! For the first like half hour of it, whatever. So but they seem to do that every now and then. You're just like, oh, this character, I can get along with this, but. Obviously, when I saw her in this episode, I'm like, you're not gonna make it, especially when Cody and Crosshair, not so much Cody. When she was in the room with Crosshair, I'm like,
Yeah.
this is gonna end well at
Yeah.
all, So she perished.
I definitely felt that coming at the end of the episode where like once Cody started hesitating, I was like, oh, Crosshair's taking her out. I
Yeah,
already sensed it was gonna happen,
right, yeah.
He's
But can
just
we talk about like how incredible like their journey on the planet was? I mean, Crosshair shot a tank through
oh yeah.
through the scope. They had the little mirror things that he's tossing in the air and shooting everything. I mean, they did a very good job on getting through that planet.
I don't remember another animated Star Wars battle that was as good as this one in a while.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, maybe at the very beginning, I would say this one was even better than the one at the beginning of season 1 of Bad Batch.
Hmm.
It's hard to compare because obviously that one had lightsabers and Jedi, so
Right.
it's
Yeah.
you
Right.
want to give it the edge. But I honestly think this one was probably a little
Yeah.
bit better. So
Yeah.
really,
I mean,
really,
honestly, this was a very, very good episode. I enjoyed
Mhm.
it a lot. Justin, and when we were doing our season 1 recap, I remembered thinking a lot of like, oh, there's so much filler, when we were watching it originally, but when we binge watched it, we felt it was much easier to watch. But right now, I mean, going to week, I'm pretty satisfied right now. I know it's only been 2 weeks, but to I guess we'll see in the next couple of weeks what they come with. But
yeah.
the fact that this was pretty much a Crosshair episode.
Mhm.
Didn't see a lick of any of the other 5. Now that we have this, it's like, all right, well, it's not going to be like, oh, and this is one thing I'm curious of how it's going to, because I mean, this was a dark episode,
Mhm.
this was a darker episode. This was a deeper, full episode. And so it'll be interesting to see the contrast going back and forth if that's how they continue to do it, because by the nature of having Omega there, it's always going to be a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit funnier.
Sure.
You got Wrecker and whatever, but then you've got these more serious episodes. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't want that imbalance to make it seem like half of it is just like for fun,
Yeah.
where the like push the story along. I guess that's my concern.
Right. I mean, like you said, my biggest worry is not with the cross. If they continue to do this parallel story thing, where it's like one episode we are here with Crosshair, and the next episode we're here with the Bad Batch. If they continue to do that, I'm far more worried about the Bad Batch part being,
Yeah.
falling short. The Crosshair stuff, I'm all here
Listen,
for
we
that.
get it. We get it. We know. No, but I'm honestly I'm getting pulled more towards this now as well, because if you give me more episodes like this, oh man, I'm gonna watch those. I'm gonna watch those multiple times.
Right. I mean, this episode had so much depth and meaning, whereas the first 2 episodes of the season, not that they
It was a
didn't.
mission. It's another
Yeah,
mission.
that's the thing. That is the reason there are episodes in season 1 of Bad Batch that feel like filler, is because it like we've said this on many different Bad Batch podcasts already, but it feels like a video game mission where it's like, okay, you go to the person gives you the task, you do the task, and you return the task. Like there's like 3 or 4 episodes in season 1 that feel like that. And the first
Mhm.
2 episodes of season 2 kind of felt
Oh yeah.
like that too. So I just hope that every episode, particularly with the 5 current Bad Batch members, don't feel like we're constantly just, all right, here's a mission, go do the mission. We struggle to do the mission, we overcome the mission, and we return the mission. Like
Yeah,
I,
right.
I want something a little different, something with more meaning, something with more depth. If you don't mind, Dave
Yeah.
Filoni.
The mission was the friends we made along the way.
Exactly. Another thought I had, not really related to the episode, but more so looking forward to the future of season 2. How many episodes? Because obviously, if anyone who's listening or watching this has seen the Bad Batch season 2 trailer, you know that we're going to get Palpatine at some point in this season, even if it's just for a few seconds. Do you think we get that in the first half of season 2 or the second half?
I think it's the first half. I think it's at the mid-season, duo episode week, um, where maybe we'll see him at the first, the end of the first episode of that week, and then it'll trail a little bit into the second episode, and then that'll be it of the Emperor, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that'd be a good way to kind of hype up the second half of the season a little bit too. Is kind of dropping him in there when what would that be?
Yeah.
Episode 6?
7 and 8. 7 and 8.
Oh, it's 16 episodes.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I was
Right?
thinking
16 episodes.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. I thinking it was 12 for some reason, but it is
Mhm.
16. So, yeah. So eventually we'll get to see old Palpy at some point in this season.
And I'm still, if they could somehow tie in Kino and Snoke's here, we got to figure it out. We got to make them in here somewhere as well.
Yep. Ultimate reveal of Bad Batch season 2. Snoke, the origin story.
Somehow.
Yeah.
Like a young Kino. I guess that would be a young Kino. Is that his name? Kino? Was that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, season 3 probably I would definitely say my favorite episode of the season so far. I don't know. You got any last wrap up thoughts or anything we missed that you wanted to touch on before we sign things off?
No, I think I think like you said, I mean, it was a really good episode. Easily the best of the 3 so far. Because it was something we hadn't seen yet. We hadn't seen really a Crosshair episode, that from where he is right now. So I to see that and obviously the bringing in Cody was pretty huge, and I'm interested in that's not the last we see of Cody, I'm sure.
Oh
so
no! In fact, I think he teams
where
up
do
with
we find
Rex
that?
at some point this season.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot about to happen here in this season. Please, no more missions from Sid, but let's just, let's develop these characters more. Omega's got to learn a lot more still. So I think they've got a great opportunity to have a really good season. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. And I think to a certain extent, a lot of the Bad Batch characters, it's tough to more fully develop them from a character perspective than where they are already at, minus Omega. I think, and I think that's hopefully where they'll bring back in like Lama Su. I think that was her name. The Kaminoan scientist who got taken at the end of season 1, and hopefully Boba too. Like if we can get just some sort of like something around Omega to kind of give that piece of the story a little bit more impact when we're watching it, rather than just the average mission every episode. I think that would really do it for me. So
yeah, and what I'm hoping for is, I mean, obviously we know Palpatine, we know Bail Organa is going to be in there at some point. I want another one where we're going to be like, oh, and not even a cameo, but like, like how Hera was last season. We had no idea that was about to happen,
right.
So something like that. If we can get another person to come in here, another character to come in here to surprise us, that's if I could ask for one more thing, that's what it would be.
Like a toddler Luke Skywalker, where he's like using the Force on people.
Yeah.
I think he'd be a toddler right now, wouldn't he? Isn't he like 1 or 2 or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Well, again, what a great episode. Probably the best one of the season so far, in both of our opinions. I would say we both pretty firmly think it was. And we're looking forward to the rest of hopefully a great season 2 of The Bad Batch. We'll be here every week to continue covering it. New podcast episodes dropping every single Thursday morning on YouTube, as well as Apple, Spotify, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you're not following on any of those platforms, we'd love to have you subscribe to the podcast on any one or all of those if you wanna. Why not? And you can always email us, hothhangout@gmail.com, or tweet at us with questions at Hoth Hangout over in the Twitterverse. And like I said, we'll be back next week with our next episode covering episode 4 of season 2 of The Bad Batch. Any last thoughts, Joey?
Guess we have an Omega episode next week. Let's go.
I hope so. Well, again, thanks for listening. Appreciate y'all, and may the force be with you.